Hello, this video is titled, I'm the world's only truly professional endurance athlete because I came up with the secret formula. And let me explain what it is. It's like bike school, only when I explained bike school before, I was talking about people, instead of kids going to school, they just go on bike rides with their parents because we're thinking about the technology of the future. Where there's people have more time on their hands. So the teachers the parents would have more time on their hands to educate their kids, and you could make more time because you streamline the economy. You spend less money on school. You just pay the parents to go ride with their kids. But before you do that, you want to set up a system where it's just you prove that it works. Like that you can learn by riding your bike all day long or doing the endurance sports all day long. Because even with swimming, you have I've never even tried it, but I bought the earphones. You can listen to audiobooks underwater. And I heard that the sound is perfect, no distractions. That'd be awesome. Like you really could concentrate. Um, you know, and when you're out in the middle of nowhere in nature, you can concentrate on that stuff. Like if you're not, um, if there's no sound and you're by yourself in the middle of nature, people can get unnerved by that. But if you're listening to an audiobook, they would actually have an effect of making you totally calm and able to concentrate on it. So anyway, um, the point of the video is, I'm really high, by the way, is that I see, if you're going to be a professional endurance athlete, you should be a professional endurance athlete as in, following the strict. And I said this in the other video. I'm the most powerful person in Boulder, but I think I was mainly talking about, other stuff. Let me talk about mainly that um, um, the mechanics of it, just, I guess, doing it by yourself, endurance athlete, listening to the audiobooks. Yeah, I'm really high. Okay, yeah, so the idea is that the best way to get smart is by listening to audiobooks while you're riding your bike. Listening to an audiobook, and a lot of people go, "Oh, I'm not an auditorial learner." Well, people in the future, there's no reason why you shouldn't be an auditorial learner. If you're not an auditorial learner, there's something wrong with you. Um, and I think even people who are older, like middle-aged people, if they're not auditory learners, they could train themselves to be auditory learners. You may not be able to teach an old dog new tricks, but you could teach an old person new tricks. People are a lot smarter than dogs. So, um, yeah, so the best way to learn is by audiobook. And the best way to do it, listen to an audiobook, is by listening to an audiobook while you're riding a bike. And and also, it's has a reverse effect where the best way to get you to ride your bike is by listening to an audiobook. I'm thinking about the future where, here, I'll take my glasses off. I'm thinking about the future where people have time on their hands, enough time on their hands to ride their bike all day long. And even people with jobs, when you're riding, instead, you just listen to your audiobook. But I think you can ride. That would just be, I want to do it where I'm riding all the time. Listen to the audiobook all the time because if you listen to an audiobook, I might get sidetracked a lot, but I try to keep it focused on the title of the video. If you listen to an audiobook and you have all the time in the world, you get into it. It's kind of like how, and it's the same thing with riding a bike. It's kind of like, or anybody who really loves their job. The idea, the general idea that I'm putting forth is there's one job for everybody, and that everybody loves, and the only problem is that people don't realize that yet, you know. But if people are taught the best life to live, they would all choose the life of riding your bike around and listen to an audiobook. Most people. There's other things you can do, but it's not going to teach you. And people hunger for knowledge. Like the other things you could do, I guess, is CrossFit, but that would be a little bit harder because you have to count. And I think maybe it would, and also you have to like concentrate more, more strenuous. And what other like hobbies? Yeah, so and also I think it makes you smarter because your blood is like pumping through your body, and you're using your body in all these different ways. You're activating your brain in that way. So you're opening up your brain. I got a gym membership a couple years ago, and I got one of those free tours from one of the trainers, and she was showing me squats and deadlift, and then he started talking about like neuro pathway or something, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh yeah, well, people burn out from lifting weights because they have to concentrate so much on the technique and all that, and the strength that, you can't lift more because your brain's burnt out on it, and not just your body. So anyway, yeah, and I was talking to my girlfriend the other day, and her son's a swimmer in swimming class, and she said that the coach was telling her that swimmers are smarter because they use more of their body, and so it integrates their brain and everything in their body. So if you're like swimming and you're integrating your body and your brain and you're listening to the audiobook, you're going to be absorbing more of the story. You're going to be paying attention to the story. You're going to be thinking about all of everything having to do with the story as well. All the concepts having to do with the story all at once, because your brain's going to be opened up from all of the exercise. So, yeah, so it's kind of like a waste of energy, a total energy drain to do education the way that it's doing now, where people go to school and they just sit around and because they're spending all their time and energy doing that, but they're getting like half of or a quarter of the knowledge, and whereas if you're just riding your bike all day long, you're getting double the knowledge, but you're also getting double the fitness, on the same energy. It's kind of like if there's a big truck driving down the road, and the truck's designed, not a truck, like a big train driving down, a train engine driving down the road, and the train engine has an engine in the front and an engine in the back, and then in the middle they have the brake guy. And so they drive down the road, and the engine, because the engine in the front and the engine in the back aren't communicating, they're both going at full steam ahead, and the middle and guy in the brake has a brake on, which has the same strength as an engine. So they're going the same speed that you would go if it was just one engine, but both the engines are going full steam because they're just wasting energy. That's not a perfect analogy, but yeah, like people, we go to school and we go to college, get in college debt. Everybody knows that's a problem. And then we get jobs. We perpetuate jobs that don't need to be perpetuated just because people try to protect their industry. You know, like prison industrial complex, war on drugs, stuff like that. And when we could just be spending, and you know, wars in other countries, we could just be spending that money. Oh my God! Imagine everybody could just be doing bike school. Like we have the infrastructure already set up. There's this book called History of Mankind by Hendrik Van Loon, and I can't remember what chapter. I think it was just thrown in like one of the chapters. But he said it was interesting how we develop technology. It happens all the time. We develop technology, and it's always like 100 years before we actually take advantage of it. You know, like I think he gave some examples. I can't remember any. I need to come up with them, but you know, like the threshing machine. The Jacobites rebellions was because they came up with the threshing machines to make or the cotton machine or something to make industry, to accelerate industry, but it put all those guys out of work, so they rebelled. And that was happening even up until recent times in Spain. Somebody developed a tree shaker, and so it put the apple pickers out of business, and so they rebelled. But I think right now we're in that state again where we have the technology, we're just not developing it. We're not utilizing it for what it needs to be utilized for. Audiobooks, listening to audiobooks, you know, and we need to remember that in the past, the smartest people were always having people read to them. So, you know, if they were alive today, they'd be telling everybody to do that. Like Thomas Jefferson and Julius Caesar, they'd be like, what you need to do is smoke a lot of weed and listen to your audiobook and ride your bike around, duh. So anyways, so my point is back to I'm the world's only professional endurance athlete. When I start riding my bike, and you know, being the endurance athlete, in January 1st of 2018, I have to finish my website before then, and it'll take me about that long to finish my website, but I'll finish it. And I know that I won't go any longer than that because my legs are starting to get sore. Yeah, that's the model that I'm going to go by. Oh, yeah, because it follows this principle that when people have time on their hands in the future, and even now, like aspiring athletes, it seems like they always have to motivate themselves to work out. You know, like if it's rainy, they got to motivate themselves to ride outside or do their program or whatever, and that's kind of like a drag. But it can actually, if you use the audiobooks, you can make it so that people can never get enough of training, because they always want to listen to their audiobook. And you can listen to the audiobook doing whatever, any endurance sport at any given time. Like if you're a triathlete, your body can always do something all day long. So yeah, so the audiobook motivates you to exercise and to push forth, because you want to just get to the end of the book, you know. You want as much time as you need. You need as much time as you can get, and that'll give you the time. So, and if you're exercising all day, every day, my theory is that that'll make you the best athlete. Like if I do it, I'll probably be up there with the best Ironman triathletes, or endurance mountain biker, you know, or like a combination of the two, but I'll be up there. And it'll be clear that I'll be good enough, you know. And if you put me besides like your traditional pro athlete, even the best, if they're better than me, but I'll still be good enough because I'll be doing all this other stuff. Like if you're going to talk about overall athlete, I'll pretty much be there. Only difference is if people continue on the way that they're doing it now, they're going to look ridiculous compared to me, because they're going to be like, if you talk to them, they're going to, actually, you know what? This is kind of a guess, but I'm pretty sure that it's the truth because I haven't heard anybody um, actually talk about their training. I typed a video and I saw Tim Don is a triathlete. I think he's an Australian triathlete in Boulder. And it was like a 5-minute video and he's just talking about his intervals. He's like, I did 5 minutes and 6 minutes and 2 minutes, and that sound interesting. But I know a lot of people do that kind of training, and it like that kind of stuff drags them down. And if you're, the more important thing is if you're just training hard all day every day, that'll make you stronger. Like if you want to have power and speed, leg speed, you're going to have more leg speed being a bike tourist who rides 10 hours a day as hard as you can than you're going to be like doing somebody who does intervals all the time, but you're only riding like 3 hours a day. I don't have a whole lot of evidence for that, but I just remember when I went bike touring, there were days when I felt like I had leg speed, you know, even though I wasn't doing intervals and stuff. I was just riding all day, every day. You know, and you can tell when you have leg speed by how fast you're going. So anyways, kind of got sidetracked. So yeah. So so anyway, that kind of, it's kind of a waste of time and energy to just spending all of your energy doing some program, and then, because then you have nothing to talk about. It's kind of a boring. I mean, no wonder there's this one guy called Sage Kennedy in Boulder who has videos, and he did a vlog, but I didn't watch it. And he has a girlfriend. I think she does vlogs, but I haven't had the time to watch it. I don't watch YouTube. I only watch Young Turks. I should probably have watched that. But I don't think people talk about. See, and in fact, I know that people don't talk about this kind of stuff because I've talked to people, all kinds of people, about this. When I was living in my van, people at the gym, my friends. I have friends who are athletes and stuff, and nobody. Okay, they wouldn't be talking about, number one, there are not that many people who do that. And if there were, and the ones who do it, don't talk about the audiobook. They just talk about maybe like the race, you know? And that's cool to talk about your race, but there's only like, you only do like a race every few weeks or something like that. You know what I mean? That's not professional, because professional is what you do every day. You know, like Bill O'Reilly, he's up there every day. The Young Turks, they're up there every day. You know, like the school teachers, they're every day. Cop every day. Politician every day. You know what I mean? It's like if you had a person who only showed up at work every couple of weeks, would that be a job? It'd be more like a hobby. You know what I mean? Your job is what you do every day. But people like endurance athletes, the way that it is now, they don't have anything to talk about every day. You know, they'd be like, it'd be boring if they did a vlog every day, because they'd be like, I got up, I did this many laps, and then I did this many miles, and I listened to, I didn't listen to anything for the first 5 miles, and then I listened to Pearl Jam the last 6 miles, and then I came home and I'm like just as dumb now as I was when I started the ride, because I didn't listen to anything, or I listened to music. You know what I mean? So now compare that. Like say you had like you had two islands, okay? And let's even compare it to the 100th monkey phenomenon. Remember the 100th monkey? There's like an island in Japan, and there's all these monkeys living on it, and then somebody teaches an island, and it's really happened. Somebody taught the monkey how to open up the coconut with a rock, and so they started doing it, and then all of a sudden the monkeys on the other island started doing it, and they didn't know why, and like they maybe dream connected or something. But okay, so imagine you have two islands, okay, and on one island they're riding their bike and they're doing triathlon, because they can swim out in the ocean, and then they can like ride their bike around the periphery of the island, and then they run to the top of the volcano and back every day. And they do it on their audiobook all the time. And then at the end of their audiobook, they do the vlog of what they learned in the audiobook. And they're all gaining in knowledge, and they all have they all kind of have a general idea of how much you're supposed to know at different age because everybody does it. And they're all taking the test. And then next door you have another island, and they're doing it the way that all the endurance athletes today do it. They're like, because they don't have anything to talk about, they don't have the YouTube videos, and a couple of them do, but they just kind of talk about their training. They're like, yeah, I swam, and it was the fastest swim this year, and then I did the ride, and it was the third fastest, but it was the fastest up that section. And then I did the run, and there was a cloud up there, which wasn't there last week. You know what I mean? There's really nothing to talk about. But then you go over to the other island, and every single person is like, yeah, today, oh my God, can you believe it? They killed 900 lions in the arena of Rome. That Commodius was such a dirty dog. And then somebody who's into interior design could go off on his interior design and how, or whatever, and so everybody's all talking about that, and then people have like different themes, historical themes. Some guys into Greece, some guys into Rome, and like some guys gets really popular for being like the best describer of the history of England and stuff. But they need, just like a drug addict, like me, just like I need my weed in order to make my website. They need their audiobook in order to ride. Like if their MP3 players die, and I feel like that at work. I'm a window washer, and when I'm listening to my audiobook at work, I'm like, I love life, and but if I don't have my audiobook, I'm like, oh God, you know what I mean? So but I know it would be the same thing. Like I've never been a bike racer, and a bunch of times bike touring, I just get bored, and I don't want to, until I had that audiobook, I could be, if I have an audiobook, oh my God, that would be the best. So like if I didn't have an audiobook and I'm riding my bike and all of a sudden I don't have any audiobook, I don't know, I'd get bored. I might be like, oh, fuck it, I don't want to do it, So that's what it would be like in the island, the people just have to have their audiobook, or else they're like, well, what the hell am I doing? I should probably get caught up on my turnip garden, so it's a cultural leap we need to make, and it seems ridiculous to me, and it seems ridiculous. I guess I'll try to capitalize it. I mean, if you have to deal with a ridiculous world, a bunch of ridiculous people, troglodytes. That's a word that I heard the Young Turks describe, like this new wave of neocon retard. Being the regular guy who's supposed to represent the poor guy, like what's that guy, Kurt Schilling, run against Elizabeth Warren, and Donald Trump, who can't talk about the issues because he just babbles, reality TV nonsense. Troglodytes, but it's a good analogy, man. Like the troglodytes in ancient times, in Herodotus's history. He was talking about all the different types of people in the world, and there were all different kinds of people in the world with like all different kinds of customs. He was talking about bald people who were totally peaceful, and people would come to them for advice, and nobody would mess with them, and they were up there in like China somewhere, and then the Egyptians, how they loved their cats, and they even had alligators for pets and all kinds of stuff. And then he got to the troglodytes, and they were the people who lived in like modern day Mauritania, like southern Morocco, and they were all like naked, and they just dug for roots, and then they ate the roots, and they didn't have a language. They just grunted. And so it's kind of like that. Like, what can sprout from a culture of troglodytes? Nothing. It's just more roots. But what happens when you've mined all the roots and there's no more roots? And the troglodytes need to come together to create a society, but they can't communicate because they just have the grunt, like big root, small root, no root. And then they all die. They'll starve. When they could, if they were smarter, they could communicate and they could go into the jungle and they could start eating bananas, So that's kind of where we are now. It's just a bunch of troglodytes, a bunch of people like you're talking about, like I did 50 miles and then 35 miles and you think that's smart. Like I would, that would be boring as hell. I mean, the only way that I can understand, I'm not saying people are dumb. They're just in a different, when you come up from a certain background, even if it's screen recording, so I'm recording again. Okay. So yeah. So even if the evidence is all around you, like evidence of aliens all around you, ancient civilization, people like now. So yeah, even if the evidence is all around you, like just listen to the audiobook, people can be like, oh, but why? Nobody around me does it, and that's fine. But I guess I had a different outlook because my life would have been, I guess it would have been too easy for me to just, because I have, this apartment and stuff, some financial help, it would have been too easy for me to just become a professional athlete. But if you're from like the inner city and you had to train your ass off and you had to beat a bunch of people and then in order to make enough money to be able to train all the time, you feel like you have that sense of accomplishment. And then you're perfectly comfortable just living in that world of just counting laps and remembering how many reps or whatever, and that's it. And if you do want to listen to an audiobook once in a while, that's your own time. But the thing is, I know people don't do it. When I was living in my van in 2011, I'd go and I'd, spend a couple weeks here, a couple weeks there for like a year, in a few states. And I'd go hang out at Starbucks, and work on my website and, libraries and stuff. And always at the Starbucks, I'd go to the Starbucks people working at Starbucks. And then I got a membership at the gym and I told the people at all the gyms that I go to, that's where I'd take my showers. And, I'd be like, yo, I got my collection of audiobooks, all these books. Like I have the whole collection on my website. I have that on my external hard drive. I'm like, yeah, let me transfer it to you. And only one person took me up on it. People just don't care, and so they're not utilizing the technology. And so, but I can understand how somebody would, be satisfied not to do that. But we need to snap out of it. We need to snap out of it because there's too many stupid people in the world, man. I mean, I'm not even going to try to explain why. It's pretty common knowledge. There's too many motherfucking stupid people in the world. And that's bad. That's dangerous. We could global warm ourselves to death. We could nuclear war ourselves, pollute ourselves, So yeah, we need to get smart, and that's the best way to get smart, and it's the cheapest way to get smart. That's making both of the engines go forward without any brakes on. If you don't have enough, if we have all this money to do all that money, killing people over in the Middle East, in Vietnam, and to have the wealth discrepancy where people have billions of dollars and they just sit on it, or they spend it trying to get richer, which is just wasting money. That's like putting the brakes on. The brakes would be them spending the money on trying to get somebody elected, like Hillary elected, to make them richer. Spending money to make the economy worse. Putting your brakes on, so running to putting your brakes on. So instead of doing that, imagine if we just bought everybody a bike. And everybody needs to have lots of different bikes too these days. You have to have your fat bike, you need your cyclocross bike, you need your time trial bike, you need your normal road bike, you need your mountain bike. And then the mountain bikes have lots of different tire levels, like sizes. You need your 29-inch mountain bike, your 27.5-inch mountain bike, your 26-inch mountain bike. You know what I mean? And then you need all the parts. And so there's no reason why the government shouldn't be able to just buy a bike for everybody. Buy one of those bikes. And, and when the technology gets up in the next few years, because the technology is really changing, I think, on bikes, they're putting disc brakes on all the bikes. So in the future, they'll be cheap. They'll be cheap to make. You can start building them a lot, and then then you'll be able to have the same kind of bike that the best person has, and it'll be affordable, But if you buy people bikes now and increase the industry of buying bikes for everybody, then that will make it a big industry and be able to make the price cheap. So anybody who talks about that stuff should spread that idea, and more people should talk about it. And there's even problems. There's brakes, actual physical brakes being applied. I think there's laws that say you can't listen to your audiobook while you ride your bike. That's fucking ridiculous. That's like saying no, we're the world of troglodytes. It's like, you're in troglodytia now. Really? Yeah, you're not allowed to talk. If you talk, you go to jail. That's basically what that is, because your only time to actually listen, to be talked to, you're not allowed to? Yeah, you have to do it at home, on the toilet or whatever, or while you're eating, or what? When you're in traffic. Yeah, you should be driving. It's like, what? So you listen to it while you're driving. People listen to the radio while they drive. If people listen to the radio while they drive and it's legal, you buy cars with radios, why the fuck can't you listen to an audiobook? People can talk even when they have their earphones on and hear stuff. It's fucking stupid. When I first came back to Boulder in 2013, I went to a temp agency to try to get a job, and I was like, yeah, I want to listen to my audiobook. She's like, yeah, you can't listen to your audiobook at that job, this job, and I was like, why? You want to get smart? She's like, well, what if you're backing up in one of those, in the warehouse in one of those little cars, and you bump into somebody, and you have the audiobook on. It's like, oh my God, dude. You're a fucking retarded little bitch working there at the temp agency, man. I'm like, what was she thinking? Oh, you're an idiot. You're another weird guy who wants to listen to an audiobook. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's almost like we're in idiocracy, dude. So anyways, my prediction is I'm going to start riding my bike in January 1st of 2018, and then I'm going to do it all through January 1st, 2018, and then by 2019, the summer of 2019, if people are still just not talking about what they learn on their audiobooks, professional athletes. I mean, I know this is the problem. Professional athletes, they have to do their exact thing in order to get to the top level, and they need to get at the top level. But we need to change the idea. So not the top professionals, I guess, but if your general run-of-the-mill triathlete, the Ironman triathlon had 3,500 people. There were 500 people at the sprint triathlon in Boulder. If the regular triathlon people, and I think there were 1,000 people at the regular Olympic distance triathlon in Boulder. There's 4 different distance triathlons in Boulder. If you're one of these thousands of people and you're out there just doing your triathlon after work every day, and that's what you do, and you're not participating in the culture of it by having a blog that says, I listen to this audiobook, or a YouTube, I listen to this audiobook, let me tell you what I learned. Then, I mean, if I'm doing it, I'm going to be like a star. I'm going to be a star. And if I'm not a star, I'm going to have a really good case for calling everybody a moron. You know what I mean? But my prediction is everybody's going to start doing it. And so if you're not doing it, and maybe people will even start doing it before I even start. And if you're not doing that, then you're a troglodyte, dude. You're grunting and you're making sounds, and you're probably not gonna be that. My prediction is the people who are listening to audiobooks are going to be the people who are going to be at the top, the strongest, because it's this self-feeding cycle. Yeah, I mean, I never, ever, ever, ever could have been a professional athlete before they invented the MP3 player and all of the audiobooks. But now I'm like, let me do it. Because I listen to audiobooks all day long while I work on my website, and I love it. It's awesome. And I don't even really pay attention. I'm not really learning anything because I'm so high, but it's still fun, because I get ideas and stuff from it, So, but the cool thing about if you're a professional athlete, or, professional as in you're doing it all day, every day. That's what I mean by professional. Oh yeah, and well, kind of what I was getting at is the professionals today. They'll if they do a vlog, they'll do a vlog only after the race every 3 weeks, but they don't do it every day, and so that's not truly professional. You know what I mean? We need to change up. We need to change what professional athletes are. Instead of them just talking at the race, they talk every day, because that's your job. Your job is not only to be the athlete, but to demonstrate the lifestyle, which is to tell what you learned every day, Like with my website, every day it develops a little bit more, Like yesterday I did Vail, and Snowmass today I did Keystone and Winter Park, and I'll do Breckenridge probably also. And so you can actually gauge every day your growth. And that's how you can do it as a professional athlete. Every day you can go, I made it from chapter 16 to 18. I heard him talk about this and this, and you'll be able to retell the whole story because you won't be high. Because you can't be too high and ride and be strong. It kind of takes your energy. It gives you asthma. It takes time out of your day. It makes you fumble around and you can't find your stuff. It just makes you work slower, and so it's better to just not be high. Maybe smoke like when you're on the rollers or trainers, or before you go to bed or whatever, but not all day long. And so, but when you're not smoking, you're paying attention to the book. And yeah, and for me especially, it'll be badass for me because I have to be super high to work on my website. So to be able to be sober and do that would be the schnitz. And then you can see when you show how people are also smarter and more fit, the people who are trying to be super fit and they're not as fit, and they're being bored with all of these weird regimes they have to stick to or something, or they just don't have anything else to think about while they're exercising, then they're going to be drug in. They're going to be, oh yeah, obviously it'll be more fun if I just listen to the audiobook, So and yeah, it's weird that we don't have that culture of listening to audiobook. I go on YouTube and I type History of the Peloponnesian War, or Edward Gibbon, Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, or whatever, and all you get is like somebody is the version where they read the book, who've only from LibriVox, that would be on YouTube, or one professor giving a 5-minute, or a kid giving a 2-minute synopsis on it, or a professor talking about it in a class, but like only one college has it, But what we should have with the technology we have is if you type like Nietzsche, you would have like 5,000 people talking about Nietzsche, The only reason I don't do that stuff is because I'm working on my website, which is the backbone for my the audiobook, because I've got my website. This is really quick, but my website is designed for that kind of stuff. Listening to the audiobook and riding your bike. I'm going to have I have different chapters of the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire attached to different bike racer levels, like how if you can get through the chapter in a 20-kilometer time trial, or if you can get to the chapter twice in a 40-kilometer time trial, which would be your hour, which is your FTP, I guess, your level, bike racer level. And then I have I want to put like attach different books to different bike rides, you know. So like if you have a bike ride that's predicted to take 24 hours, I have all the books that would take 24 hours to get through the entire book. So it would be amazing if you can get through an entire book in one bike ride, remember the whole thing, and then just talk about the whole thing, and you did it all in one day, and you did a huge bike ride. Okay, now imagine people doing that every day compared to the people now who they just do it. They just don't do anything. They're just like, oh yeah, whatever. I don't know. I have nothing to say because I found a new song. You know what I mean? It's going to make them look ridiculous. That's my prediction. And it's going to happen in 2019 because I'm going to get through 2018. And by the time I'm into 2019, people are going to be like, people are going to know who I am. And they're going to be, if it turns out that I started it, you know what I mean? I don't want to sound like ego guy. But somebody, if it's not me, somebody's going to do it. And if somebody else doesn't do it, people are fucking stupid. And thank God for me. You know what I mean? But that's the way. That's where we're going. And so, yeah. And so I'm the world's own. So anyways, the title applies. I'm the world's only truly professional athlete. If what I'm saying, the world is the same as it is now, and we fast forwarded a year and 2 months, and it's actually just January 1st, 2018. You know what I mean? Because the world can change a lot in a year. Maybe by January 1st, 2018, everybody's doing it. Everybody's listening to audiobooks and talking about their audiobooks, and I'm still working on my website. You know what I mean? So it's with that caveat. It's with that, that condition. I'm the world's only truly professional athlete, as long as everybody's the same way as they are now in January 1st, 2018. Okay? All right, peace out. I think that's about all I had to say. Okay, I remember there's a point I wanted to make, so I was editing the video and I wanted to make it add this. So what I'm talking about is, the whole point of the video is, when you're talking about people who represent the sport of endurance sports, running, riding, swimming, all day long, right? The people who represent that, okay, like the biggest stars, the biggest, best representatives, the biggest names, okay, in the future are going to be the people who listen, who do that, okay, in the beginning, before it's something that everybody does. Because I think in the future, in 100 years, it's something everybody does. But they're going to be the people who do a good job of listening to the book and talking about the book while writing all the time. They're going to be bigger stars than the people who actually are the best athletes and win the races. Because they're going to be more interesting. And they're going to be seen, they're going to be more important to society and be bigger stars. Like that's going to be, and then that's going to morph because they're going to be almost as good. Right? But they're going to be so much better in the knowledge, in the interest level, okay? So what that's going to do is that's going to cause a cultural shift. And it's going to make people try to put less stress on performing well and doing all the different whatever coaches tell you to do, and more stress and focus on the process of listening to the audiobook while you're exercising. And then I think people are going to realize that that's actually the best way to train. That's what I'm saying. And then that's going to help people figure out of the necessity to meld those all together and listen to the audiobook while training all the time, and also incorporating in all the other stuff they do, like the intervals and stuff. And talking about that and integrating all of that. So, and that's what we need to be focusing towards, and putting energy towards. Sometimes it's not all about, if you want to get fix wealth discrepancy, it's not always all about make those rich people make less money, but it's sometimes, or let's spend less money on wars, but it's also about let's spend more money on this. Because if you say, let's spend more money and more attention on this, then you're like, when people say, you're kind of setting up a bear trap for people, then you're inviting people to say, oh, but there's no money. And then you can go, aha, take it from there. You know what I mean? So you're not being like negative in your approach. You're just being positive. So that's basically my point. Cultural shift. The cultural shift and the shift in focus. Okay, that's all.